When you think about leading in today's really complex healthcare world, what's the one trait that matters most? Well, the answer might not be what you think. It's not about being the one with all the answers. It's actually about humility. Today, we're going to dig into why humility is the new smart and how it is completely changing the game for patient care.
This whole idea is a huge focus for the Culture Coalition, and everything we're talking about today is really inspired by the incredible work of author Edward Hess in his book, Humility is the New Smart.
So let's just start with this question, because it gets right to the heart of everything. In the high-stakes, fast-moving world of patient care, our old definitions of what it means to be smart just aren't cutting it anymore. Okay, let's really dive into this. We're going to explore how the very definition of smart is changing, and more importantly, why that matters for every single healthcare team out there.
First up, let's talk about why the model many of us were trained in is really starting to show its cracks.
Take a look at this number, 47%. That comes from a pretty stunning report out of Oxford University. It's the percentage of U.S. jobs they predict could be at risk because of technology. Now, look, we all know a computer isn't going to replace a doctor or a nurse. That's not the point. But what this huge technological shift does do is force us to ask a really critical question. In an age of AI and big data, what are the uniquely human skills that are going to define great patient care from now on?
You see, as technology takes over more of the data crunching, our value, our human value, it shifts to the things machines just can't do. We're talking about higher-order critical thinking, real creativity, and that deep emotional connection with others. These are the skills that will make all the difference.
And this brings us to what the author, Edward Hess, calls old smart. It's probably a model you recognize. It's the one where being the smartest person in the room meant you knew the most facts. You've had the most right answers, and your value came from knowing more than everybody else.
Hess puts it pretty bluntly with this quote. In today's medical world, which is so incredibly complex, no one person can possibly know everything. So clinging to that old model of the all-knowing expert isn't just outdated, it can actually be a risk to patient safety. All right, so if old smart is the problem, what's the solution? Well, this is where the alternative framework comes in. Let's talk about new smart.
New smart basically flips the script. It shifts the focus away from the quantity of knowledge in one person's head and instead puts it on the quality of the team's thinking. It's a huge move from what I know to how we, together, can find the best path for our patient.
And this really gets to the core of it, right? If we need to move from an individual mindset to a truly collaborative one, what's the one thing that makes all of this possible?
The key is humility. But let's be really clear about what we mean by that. This isn't about being passive or thinking less of yourself. It's a powerful, active mindset that drives excellence. You can almost think of it as the essential operating system for any elite team.
I love how Hess defines this. Humility is about quieting your ego. It's about being less defensive when you're challenged and less afraid to say, you know what, I don't know the answer to that. It's that deep down realization that getting it right for the patient is way more important than being right yourself.
And when you look at this quote, this is more than just a list of nice virtues. This is literally the blueprint for creating a high-performing team. Because this is what creates psychological safety, the kind of safety that lets a team member speak up and prevent an error. It's what allows everyone to learn from mistakes without fear. So the big question is, how do we make this real? How do we put it into action?
Okay, so let's get super practical. This whole concept really breaks down into 4 concrete behaviors that leaders can model to bring this culture to life. These 4 behaviors are humility in action. It's about quieting your egos so the focus is always on the patient. It's about managing your own emotions when things get intense. It's about practicing reflective listening, listening to truly understand, not just waiting for your turn to talk. And finally, it's about mastering what Hess calls otherness, building that deep, genuine trust with your colleagues. And here's the thing, this perfectly illustrates the new role of a leader. Because these aren't just abstract ideas, they are trainable, practical skills that form the absolute bedrock of any elite team's performance.
So let's bring this all home. What does all of this really mean for you as a clinical leader?
The time where the leader had to be the smartest person in the room, well, that time is over. In today's healthcare world, it's just too complex. No one person has all the answers. That old model of the all-knowing expert is not just outdated, it's a liability.
Your new job, your real job, is to be the chief cultivator of curiosity and safety. It's to build an environment where the combined intelligence of your entire team, your physicians, your APPs, your nurses, your techs, everybody, can come together to solve the problems that no single person could ever solve alone. So I'll leave you with this challenge to think about. As a leader, how will you personally start to model this kind of humility to unlock the collective genius that's already on your team? Because honestly, the future of patient care really does depend on it.